The stars had always spoken in whispers to those who knew how to listen. For most, they were distant fires, impossible to touch, mere decoration in a sky too large to comprehend. But for Princess Elira Voss, they were maps, riddles, and challenges all at once. Humanity, she knew, had never been considered fit to rule. Across countless systems, the stories were the same. Humans were too small, too emotional, too short-lived to carry the weight of leadership. Yet here she was, standing on the deck of the Sovereign's Honor, looking out at a council that would decide the fate of not just her house, but the frontier itself. The Concord of Crowns was no ordinary gathering. It was a tradition that spanned millennia, where the leaders of alien dynasties, some as old as stars themselves, convened to discuss governance, trade, and territorial claims. Elira's heart pounded as she adjusted the royal insignia on her chest. Her human hands felt oddly inadequate among the elongated fingers, clawed appendages, and metallic limbs of the council members. Yet she straightened her spine. She had trained for this moment for her entire life. "Princess Elira," a voice boomed. It belonged to Lord Kael'tor, a reptilian noble whose species had ruled for over 1,000 cycles. "The tales say humans cannot govern. History has proven it time and again. Why, then, should we even entertain your claim?" Elira's eyes did not waver. She had rehearsed this. "Because history does not define the future," she replied evenly. "Because humans are not the same as they were before, and because waiting for someone else to solve crises will cost lives." Her voice, firm yet clear, resonated across the hall. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. A few whispered to each other, but she could see the doubt forming in their eyes. Doubt was her first weapon. Before Kael'tor could respond, alarms blared across the Concord. Red lights bathed the chamber as holographic screens flickered to life. A massive stellar anomaly had appeared near the Hellion cluster, a sector shared by multiple dynasties. Its sudden growth threatened several planets, and worse, its movement was unpredictable. Traditional council protocol demanded debate, committees, and weeks, maybe months of deliberation. In other words, by the time action was taken, the crisis would have already destroyed countless lives. Elira's instincts kicked in. She moved to the nearest console, her fingers flying across alien symbols she had learned to read in weeks. "We can stabilize the systems with coordinated energy fields," she said. "The procedure is risky but feasible. If we wait for council approval, entire colonies will be lost." Kael'tor's scales glimmered in anger. "And why should we follow the orders of a human child who has never led armies or fleets? You overstep your bounds, Princess." Elira did not flinch. "Because you hesitate while others die. Leadership is not inherited, it is proven in action." The chamber erupted into chaos. Some council members shouted. Others simply turned away, unwilling to act. Elira took a deep breath and made the decision. She initiated the stabilization sequence herself. The screens across the Concord shimmered with the projection of her plan, energy nets forming around the anomaly, magnetic fields bending its path, and a fleet of drones ready to enforce control. It was audacious. It was dangerous, and it was human ingenuity in action. Hours passed. Sweat beaded on her forehead as calculations, field projections, and minor adjustments consumed her every thought. The council watched, mostly in silence, as the anomaly slowed, its destructive energy dissipating. One by one, the planets in the sector were secured. Colonists who had moments ago faced annihilation were now safe, thanks to a human princess they had never heard of. The hall remained quiet. Even Kael'tor stared at the displays, his jaw clenched. No one spoke for long minutes. Then slowly murmurs of acknowledgement began, some grudging, some astonished. Elira allowed herself a small smile, though her mind raced ahead. This was only the beginning. The anomaly was not natural. Someone had triggered it deliberately. That realization hit her as she examined residual energy patterns. Her stomach tightened. Whoever had done this had immense knowledge and skill. And whoever they were, they intended to make her look like the culprit. Elira clenched her fists. She would not allow legends about human weakness to decide her fate. Not now, not ever. By the time the Concord reconvened, evidence was already emerging that someone had tampered with the anomaly's formation. Fingers pointed, accusations flew, and the human princess found herself at the center of suspicion. Kael'tor's voice rose again, sharp and accusing. "It is clear, Princess, that only someone like you could have orchestrated this. Only a human, desperate for recognition, would manipulate life and death to prove themselves." Elira held her head high. "I did not create this crisis," she said calmly, letting the weight of truth hang in the air. "But I will not stand aside while others perish. You may suspect, you may doubt, but the evidence will speak for itself." The council, unwilling to risk further calamity, invoked a rare and ancient procedure, the right of trial governance. Under this law, any candidate accused of manipulating events could be granted temporary authority over a designated sector, tested in the harshest conditions, with the galaxy watching. If she failed, she would be held accountable. If she succeeded, she would prove that humans could indeed rule. Elira agreed. There was no hesitation. Her mind was clear. This was her chance, not just to survive, but to redefine humanity's place among the stars. The conquered murmured. Some saw a reckless gamble. Others saw courage. The human princess, once laughed at, was now the center of the galaxy's attention. Before she departed for the frontier sector, Elira stood in the observation chamber of the Sovereign's honor, looking at the swirling stars outside. Her fleet was small, her council inexperienced, but human adaptability had always been her greatest strength. "Legends said humans could not rule," she whispered to herself. "Legends will be rewritten." The journey to the frontier was treacherous. Asteroid belts, rogue comets, and unstable wormholes made navigation difficult. But Elira's fleet moved with precision. Her human crews worked tirelessly, improvising solutions to every mechanical failure, every navigational challenge. Where alien ships might stall or wait for protocol, humans acted, solved, and adapted. The legend of human weakness had already begun to crumble in practice, if not yet in perception. When the fleet finally arrived at the first sector under her temporary command, the devastation was clear. Colonies had been damaged, trade routes disrupted, and lawless factions were already taking advantage of the chaos. Elira surveyed the situation with calm determination. She could have panicked, but she knew that fear was a luxury she could not afford. Every decision now would define her trial and the place of humanity in the galaxy. The first act was to stabilize communications. She organized rapid response teams to repair stations and relay messages across the sector. Then came the fleet coordination. Unlike the rigid, hierarchical alien fleets, Elira implemented a decentralized command system. Captains had the authority to make decisions based on local conditions, reporting back only the results. It was unorthodox, but it worked. Slowly, order began to return. Trade resumed. Pirates were contained. Colonists, initially skeptical of human leadership, started to see results. Word of her actions spread. HoloNet broadcasts from surviving colonies praised the human princess. Messages of hope and relief contrasted sharply with whispers in the conquered. Some leaders began to reconsider the ancient prejudices that had defined human reputation for centuries. But the greatest challenge was yet to come. Elira knew that the anomaly was only the beginning. Whoever had triggered it had a purpose, and it was not random. As she studied residual energy patterns, she realized that this was not just a test of skill. It was a test of perception, strategy, and courage. Someone wanted her to fail, and if she did, the legends about humans would never be challenged. Night fell across the frontier planets, a darkness filled with quiet anticipation. Elira stood on the balcony of her command station looking at the stars. Each one was a question, a challenge, and a promise. "Let them watch," she murmured. "Let them see what humans can do." For the first time in her life, she felt not fear, but resolve. She was a princess, a human, and a leader. The galaxy might doubt her now, but she would prove that humans could rule, not by tradition, not by inheritance, but by courage, ingenuity, and action. Legends were not destiny. Legends could be rewritten. The first night in her sector passed with uneasy quiet, but Elira did not sleep. She prepared, planned, and watched. Every decision mattered. Every choice could tip the balance between survival and failure. And in the stillness of the frontier, a single thought drove her forward. The galaxy believes humans are weak. They are wrong. And with that thought, the human princess began her true trial. Princess Elira Voss awoke before the twin suns of her sector rose above the horizon. The frontier planets were alive with movement. Repair crews fixed damaged stations. Scouts reported anomalies in communication lines, and traders began to reestablish the disrupted supply routes. From the balcony of her command station, she could see the faint glow of settlements across multiple worlds. Each one represented a life she had the responsibility to protect, a challenge she had chosen to face. The Conquered watched her, the galaxy watched her, and most importantly, she had to watch herself. The first test of her rule had been the anomaly, and she had succeeded. But now, the real trial began. Leadership in practice was never about single victories. It was about sustaining order, building trust, and anticipating danger in a sector filled with opportunists. Elira's human instincts told her that the most dangerous threat was not the stars themselves, but those who sought to undermine her. Within hours, the first warning arrived. Communications from a small colony on the outskirts of the sector reported unusual energy spikes. When Elira analyzed the data, it was clear. Someone had planted a sabotage device designed to disrupt the colony's energy grid. It was precise, lethal, and intended to frame her fleet. If the device activated while the Conquered was monitoring, the blame would fall on her, reinforcing the legends of human failure. Elira called her council together. Her team was diverse, drawn from humans, aliens, and hybrids who had pledged loyalty to her leadership, not her bloodline. "We must act immediately," she said, pointing at the energy map. "This is no accident. Someone is trying to discredit us. We cannot allow them to succeed." The council debated methods for hours. Most suggested following the old protocols: wait for reinforcements, conduct a full investigation, and ensure safety. But Elira's mind worked differently. Humans survived by acting, adapting, and taking calculated risks. She proposed a daring solution: send small, agile teams to neutralize the devices while simultaneously tracing the source of the sabotage. The plan would require coordination across multiple planets and near-instant communication, something the alien council members found reckless. Yet the humans in her council, and some brave allies from other species, began to mobilize. By mid-afternoon, small squads were en route to affected colonies. They worked with precision, diffusing devices, repairing systems, and securing the people. By the end of the day, not a single life had been lost, and the colonies remained functional. But the attack revealed something deeper. Someone knew the exact weaknesses of her sector. This was not random sabotage. It was carefully orchestrated, designed to undermine her authority. While her teams returned, Elira examined patterns in the sabotage attempts. She discovered a trace of alien energy technology she had never encountered before. It was highly advanced, suggesting the involvement of a species with vast experience in covert operations. Her mind raced. If she could identify the source, she could prevent further attacks, but revealing her suspicions too early could alert the saboteurs. Patience, she reminded herself, was as much a weapon as courage. The next challenge arrived in the form of a diplomatic crisis. Two neighboring colonies, distrustful of human authority and unsure if the princess's rule would hold, had begun a skirmish over resource distribution. Elira could have sent her fleet to enforce peace, but that would reinforce the stereotype of humans relying on brute force. Instead, she summoned the leaders of both colonies to a neutral station. Using a combination of reason, empathy, and careful negotiation, she proposed a shared resource plan that accounted for both colonies' needs. It was not easy. Tensions ran high, and several council members muttered that she was risking everything on a gamble. Yet humans excelled at adaptability, and Elira used her knowledge of human behavior and psychology to find solutions her alien counterparts could not see. Slowly, the leaders agreed. Trade resumed peacefully, and she had won the first major diplomatic victory of her rule. But the victory was short-lived. In the middle of the night, Elira received an encrypted message that chilled her blood. It came from an anonymous source, claiming to know the truth about her lineage. According to the message, her genetic line had been modified generations ago using alien technology to enhance human survival. If the Conquered discovered this, her legitimacy as a human ruler would be called into question. Some might even claim she was no longer human, invalidating the trial and reinforcing the old legends. Elira knew she had a choice. She could conceal the information, secure her position, and hope the truth never emerged. Or she could confront it, risking public doubt and possibly lose the trial. She spent the night pondering the implications. Her human nature demanded honesty and courage, and she realized that the galaxy would only respect humans if they faced challenges head-on, not with deception. By dawn, she made her decision. She would reveal her lineage, but not as a weakness. She would frame it as a testament to human adaptability, resilience, and the unique ability to evolve in the harshest conditions. In a universe where survival often depended on change, humanity's supposed flaw was, in fact, its greatest strength. Before she could announce her revelation, another crisis struck. A group of rogue mercenaries, taking advantage of the chaos in her sector, attacked a supply convoy transporting essential resources. Illyra acted swiftly, deploying a mix of human and alien fleets to intercept the mercenaries. Her strategy relied on unexpected maneuvers, deception, and coordinated attacks, techniques alien fleets considered unorthodox. The humans under her command excelled at improvisation, adapting to enemy tactics in real time. By the end of the engagement, the convoy was safe, and the mercenaries were captured. Once again, human ingenuity had turned a potential disaster into a triumph. The Conquered was watching closely. Reports from various colonies streamed in, detailing the princess's leadership. Some members were skeptical, clinging to the old stories about human failure. Others began to see evidence that the legends might be wrong. Illyra's trial was no longer just about survival. It was a test of perception, of whether humans could command respect across a galaxy that had doubted them for centuries. Despite her successes, Illyra faced growing opposition within her council. Certain alien members, resentful of her rapid decisions and unorthodox methods, began plotting against her. They whispered to one another, spread doubt among other species, and tried to manipulate minor crises into major scandals. Illyra watched silently, gathering evidence. Patience, she reminded herself, was a weapon. She allowed them to reveal themselves, then prepared to turn their schemes against them. The climax of the trial approached when the saboteurs made their boldest move yet. They infiltrated one of the sector's central power hubs, intending to trigger a massive explosion that would devastate multiple colonies. Illyra's intelligence network had anticipated the attack. She had already dispatched rapid response units and prepared contingency measures. The resulting confrontation was tense. Squads raced against time, defusing devices while fending off attackers, and the princess coordinated operations from her command center. Every human skill, ingenuity, adaptability, courage, and teamwork was tested to its limit. By the end of the crisis, the saboteurs were defeated, the colonies were saved, and Illyra's leadership had been proven once again. But more importantly, the attempted sabotage had revealed the saboteurs' connections to several powerful alien dynasties, proving that the threats she faced were political in nature, not natural. It was no longer a matter of human weakness versus survival. It was about strategy, intelligence, and the ability to navigate a galaxy of competing interests. Finally, Illyra called a public assembly across the sector. Using holographic broadcasts, she addressed every planet under her care. She revealed the truth about her lineage, explaining that her ancestors had undergone genetic enhancements to ensure survival in a harsh universe. But she framed it as evidence of humanity's unique adaptability. Where others failed in rigid tradition, humans evolved. Where others relied on centuries of protocol, humans improvised. Legends said humans could not rule, she declared. I am here to show that those legends were wrong. Our strength lies not in perfection, but in our ability to survive, adapt, and rise. The response was immediate. Colonists, traders, and fleet members sent messages of support. Some skeptical alien factions began to reconsider their stance. The Conquered received the reports with a mixture of shock and respect. The first part of Illyra's trial had ended, and she had passed, not just by surviving, but by transforming perception itself. As she stood once again on the balcony of her command station, watching the twin suns set across the frontier, Illyra felt a sense of accomplishment tempered with anticipation. She knew the greatest challenges were still ahead: political machinations, interstellar diplomacy, and the looming threat of forces that would not accept a human princess as a leader. But for the first time, she felt the weight of possibility. Humanity's place among the stars was not predetermined by legends. It was something they could claim through courage, ingenuity, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. And Princess Illyra Voss, the first human to hold provisional authority over an entire frontier sector, had already begun to rewrite the story of her people. Princess Illyra Voss stood at the command center of the frontier sector, watching the stars stretch endlessly beyond the transparent shields of her station. The past cycles had been grueling. Sabotage, diplomatic tensions, and rogue attacks had tested her skills, her courage, and her patience. Yet every obstacle had revealed the true power of human adaptability. Her leadership had inspired loyalty among humans and respect among many alien species. But she knew the trial was far from over. The conquered would soon convene to judge her final performance. This time, it would be a test not of survival, but of legitimacy. Early in the cycle, intelligence reports indicated a coordinated threat to multiple sectors. The ancient alien dynasties, uncomfortable with a human commanding authority, were secretly mobilizing forces to destabilize the frontier. They were careful, avoiding direct confrontation that might expose their bias. Instead, they relied on misinformation, false alarms, and political pressure. Illyra realized the test was no longer about her fleet or her colonies. It was about perception, strategy, and the ability to unify diverse civilizations under one leadership. Illyra called her council together. Humans, aliens, and hybrid allies filled the holographic chambers, their faces reflecting determination and concern. "This is the moment we prove that humans are not defined by legends," she said. "They will try to frame us to make us look weak. We will respond not with fear, but with precision, intelligence, and cooperation. Every choice, every action will demonstrate our strength." The first challenge came from the outer systems. Saboteurs had infiltrated supply networks, threatening famine and unrest. Instead of using brute force to punish them, Illyra deployed teams to repair, negotiate, and secure resources. She implemented a rapid communication system, allowing planetary leaders to coordinate responses and share information. This approach was unlike anything the alien dynasties had seen. Where they relied on rigid command chains, humans acted with flexibility and initiative. Within days, the threat was neutralized without a single colony falling into chaos. While the frontier stabilized, Illyra prepared her next move. She knew the conquered would scrutinize her actions, searching for flaws, weaknesses, or evidence of incompetence. The trial was not simply about survival, it was about winning respect. To accomplish this, she needed to demonstrate human potential in a visible, undeniable way. Her opportunity came when a rogue fleet attempted to blockade a strategic trade route. Traditional methods would have called for a cautious approach, waiting for backup or reinforcing defenses. Illyra, however, saw an opening. She deployed a small, agile fleet, using human ingenuity to create an unexpected maneuver. Her ships disguised as cargo carriers slipped past enemy sensors, striking at critical points in the blockade. The maneuver relied on speed, coordination, and trust in her crew's ability to improvise. Within hours, the blockade was broken, trade resumed, and the rogue fleet retreated in confusion. Reports of her success reached the conquered in real time. Many leaders were stunned. The stories of human fragility, short-sightedness, and impulsiveness were beginning to crumble. Illyra knew she had to act boldly one final time to cement humanity's place among the stars. The decisive moment arrived when intelligence uncovered the orchestrators of the previous sabotage. A coalition of alien dynasties had conspired to prevent humans from ruling, using hidden agents, falsified reports, and manipulation of smaller systems. Illyra's mind raced. Direct confrontation would be dangerous. Instead, she devised a plan to expose the conspiracy publicly while demonstrating the effectiveness of human leadership. She initiated a galaxy-wide broadcast, calling representatives from every sector, every planet, and every species to witness the truth. Holograms of key evidence, intercepted communications, sabotage blueprints, and records of interference were displayed. She narrated the events with calm authority, explaining how her human-led council had responded, protected colonies, and restored order. Then, in a bold move, she revealed her own lineage, the enhancements in her family line that had been intended not to give humans unfair advantage, but to ensure survival in a universe full of danger. Illyra's words resonated across the galaxy. Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes, but we survive, we adapt. Where tradition fails, we find solutions. Where fear would stop others, we act. Legends said humans could not rule. I am here to show that legends were wrong. The reactions were immediate. Messages of support poured in from colonies she had saved. Human fleets cheered, alien allies expressed respect, and many previously skeptical dynasties were forced to reconsider their bias. The evidence was clear. The conspiracy had failed and the frontier thrived under human leadership. However, the greatest test was yet to come. Some of the most powerful alien rulers, unwilling to admit defeat, demanded a formal council trial. They claimed that Elira's leadership was an anomaly, a temporary success that would not last. The princess accepted. She knew that the galaxy would only respect humans if she faced this challenge openly. The council convened on the neutral station in the Hellion cluster. Every species sent representatives. Elira appeared not just as a princess, but as a leader who had governed multiple sectors, handled crises, and demonstrated strategy beyond her years. The debate was fierce. Critics cited legends, past failures of humans, and the risks of relying on unpredictable species. But Elira spoke with clarity, confidence, and logic. She presented her evidence, explained her strategies, and emphasized the strengths of human adaptability. Her speeches were neither arrogant nor defensive. They were a demonstration of capability. When the arguments concluded, the council voted. It was a tense wait. Finally, the result was announced. Unanimous recognition of Princess Elira Voss as the High Regent of the Frontier, with authority over previously disputed systems. Humans had been vindicated. Legends of their inability to rule were shattered. The galaxy had witnessed firsthand that human courage, intelligence, and adaptability could not only survive but thrive in the harshest and most complex conditions. The coronation ceremony was held on a planet in the frontier, a world that had survived sabotage, unrest, and isolation thanks to her leadership. Humans and aliens alike attended. Elira stood before them, her uniform simple but dignified, her eyes bright with determination. When the crown was placed upon her head, it was not a symbol of inherited power, but of earned respect. She had proven the impossible, that a human could lead the galaxy not by tradition, not by brute strength, but by intelligence, empathy, and courage. As the ceremony ended, Elira addressed the crowd. The stars are vast and the challenges ahead are many, but if we face them together with courage and ingenuity, no obstacle is insurmountable. Humanity was never weak. We only needed the chance to show our true strength. For the first time in millennia, humans were seen not as fragile, short-lived creatures, but as capable leaders. Across colonies and systems, people celebrated, and even skeptical dynasties began to acknowledge that perhaps the legends had been wrong all along. Yet Elira knew that leadership was only the beginning. Maintaining trust, protecting the frontier, and uniting diverse species would be an ongoing challenge. But she was ready. Her human instincts, adaptability, courage, and determination would guide her. She had survived sabotage, brokered peace, and exposed conspiracies. She had rewritten the story of her people. The galaxy would never again underestimate humans. That night, as twin moons rose over the frontier planet, Elira stood on the balcony of her palace, looking at the stars. The same stars she had once seen as distant, untouchable lights now seemed full of possibilities. For the first time, humanity had a true place among them. And she, Princess Elira Voss, had not only survived the trial, she had transformed the galaxy's perception forever. The frontier would face challenges, enemies, and crises yet to come, but legends no longer defined humans. Adaptability, courage, and ingenuity had written a new story, and the galaxy was finally ready to believe. As Elira turned from the balcony, the weight of the crown was heavy, yet familiar. She smiled, knowing that humanity's future was no longer limited by fear or doubt. It was limitless. The first human ruler had emerged, and the legend had been rewritten.